Dímelo, mi gente, ¿cómo está? Travel football fan here with a very special episode today. I am joined by Janine Romo of The Wild Explorer. How you doing, Janine? How you doing?
I'm good, Danny. How are you?
Good. And so I'm going to be producing some of these videos in the next 500 days. Today is 500 days to go until June 11, 2026. And I want to highlight specific parts of the 16 cities that are going to be participating in this World Cup to do extra travel, because you're not just going to go to your soccer games. You're going to be wanting to do other stuff, tourism things. And so Janine, she is from California. I'll let her introduce herself. Janine, please.
Hi. Thank you for having me on, Danny. I'm super excited. I'm Janine, the Wild Explorer across all socials. I am a travel content creator. I am from California, born and raised, and I do a lot of road tripping and a lot of travel content around California and beyond. But I'm super excited to be here and talk about the World Cup coming to California, coming to North America. Super excited, and there's so much to do in California, so I'm super excited to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we've came across each other's paths through our my wife's and I Instagram Latinos with Passports a couple of years ago. That you were just highlighting all of these different places around California that I've only been there like maybe 2-3 times in my life, and I'm like, geez, like you could spend your entire life exploring California, and you probably wouldn't hit everything. Is that kind of the sense that you get?
Oh yeah, there's always something new. It's like I'm from LA. I feel like there's always something new just in the city, or you're just in the county alone. So it's so hard I keep wanting to go to all these different places, and it's a beautiful state where you have a little bit of everything. You've got the mountains, the beaches, you got redwoods, and we have 9 national parks. There's always something to do here, no matter the season.
Perfect. Well, let's get into that then. Of course, with the World Cup being in the summer, and maybe let's start here with maybe a big question, and then maybe we'll get into specifics. So, what should fans expect from traveling to LA and San Francisco based on your travels to those two cities? And what are some tourist spots that can't be missed? Maybe some of those tourist traps, sure, but maybe some of your own personal recommendations that you feel soccer fans should not miss.
Awesome. Yeah, let's start with LA. LA, because it's a big city. It's huge. People underestimate it. And if you're staying near SoFi Stadium, that's just one pocket of LA. But give yourself some time and explore more. I think some of the I don't want to, they're not tourist traps, but they're iconic LA places that you can't miss. Like the Griffith Observatory is one of them. And I know a lot of tourists go there, but a lot of people from LA love going there. It's a beautiful view. It's a beautiful observatory, one, but going up there like a little bit before sunset, and you could even hike up there. It's really pretty. There's a bunch of different trails. Griffith Park is beautiful. It's on Griffith Park. You have lots of beautiful trails, beautiful lookout points. I love going up there just a little bit before sunset, enjoying the sunset, and then waiting until nightfall and just seeing the city just light up. You have a great view of the LA skyline. So that's a spot that I personally would not miss. That's one of my favorite landmarks in LA, and it's very LA. It's just very iconic to LA, and I think
Would
it's
that
loved.
be would that be like the scene from La La Land? Is that what
Yes,
they're dancing?
yes.
Okay.
Are they? Yeah.
And I
It's
also
like,
believe that's where they did the reveal of the logo for the World Cup. For those of for those of y'all that
oh my
remember the
God.
reveal of the logo, I believe they did it at Griffith Observatory. So basically, that whole scene, that whole spot right there to do that. Okay, what about you were saying that SoFi by itself in that neighborhood is just that little piece there. What maybe some other spots that perhaps are closer to the stadium or that fans can go to?
Yeah. Actually, I feel like I have to look at a map real quick because I'm like, LA is so big.
Maybe that's the first best suggestion. It's like y'all gonna need a map for LA because
You need a map. You need to so even me, it's like born and raised here, been here my entire life, but there's just so many pockets of LA and you're like, wait, where's everything? So yeah, you're not too far. You're actually not that far from the beach. And I don't know, that's very like subjective. Like for me, not that far is like 30, 40 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So we're used to traffic, we're used to driving places. It's a very like car dependent city. Sadly, but I know we're expanding the metro system, which is awesome. And I've spent time on the metro system, and it has its flaws like any American
Yeah.
metro system. It's just not how the European metro system is, but you could still get around places. But it's just a lot easier to get around in a car, unfortunately. But you're not that far from the beach. Dockweiler Beach is actually a really cool beach. It's one of the few beaches where you could have a bonfire on the beach, and so it's
Okay.
kind of like a local favorite. You have Manhattan Beach, which is a really cool beach town. I know I've like gone sailing out of there before, and so there's a lot of like tours and things that you could do there. So if you're looking to get out on the beach, enjoy the sand, enjoy, a little boat ride. There's like these brunch boat rides where you could, you pay whatever it is and you're on this big boat with a bunch of people just vibing, having a good time. And I feel like around the World Cup, you're just going to be around a bunch of like happy people.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good vibes. And I don't know, I feel like the beach is kind of a must stop if you're coming in the summer.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been in the summer there to LA, and honestly, the temperatures are not as I would say as intense as some other places. Like Miami, I would say that. But overall, I mean, the few times I've been there, yes, on the car situation, it does seem like LA is very much car dependent. So you mentioned the metro, but you really think that folks coming into Los Angeles are going to have to depend on vehicle travel, whether that is renting their own vehicle or on rideshare or taxis?
So it makes things a lot easier. I know they've been talking about there's always like construction out in LA. One, I know they've been talking about getting an actual. 'Cause right now, there's no connection, no metro connection from LAX airport to anywhere. Like you have to take a shuttle to get out of the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that I know that they're working on, and I don't even remember what their anticipated completion date is. I want to say it's supposed to happen before the World Cup, and I really hope it does, because that is one big flaw that we have with the airport. But car travel here does make things a lot easier if you are looking to explore beyond, the hot spots, beyond if you're looking to like go to the mountains or going to, some more hidden gems, some more local places. It's going to be a lot easier, but that's not to say you absolutely need a car.
Mm-hmm.
I think the city is doing all the things to at least like whatchamacallit? I'm trying to think of the wording for this.
At least bring the transportation, within the city, move the fans between at least the stadium and some of the more like hot of the tourist spots within the city.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think.
Okay. And so then what about, outside of LA? You mentioned, okay, so maybe, you should get a vehicle or some other mode of transportation to get to some other parts outside of LA. What are some of those places outside of LA that fans should consider traveling to get a different flavor of the city and of the region?
Of course. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about SoCal. So, I mean, it just kind of depends on where everyone wants to go. There's some people who really want to go to Disneyland, but that's about an hour away.
Okay.
There are some people who, they don't want the touristy stuff. They want something maybe a little bit more laid back. Santa Barbara is a good 2 hours away. That is a really cool vibe. Like you feel like you're on vacation there. And I feel like everyone who lives there just has like a very relaxed vibe,
Okay.
has a little bit of like this like Spanish Mediterranean, You'll see a lot of like Spanish style homes. The architecture's really pretty. You're right on the beach. San Diego is not too far. And then you have all of the city. So San Diego's 2 hours south, give or take, from Los Angeles. And actually the Amtrak is very
That's right.
connected there.
Too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You could stop off in San Juan Capistrano, which is a very walkable coastal town, Oceanside. These are all in between San Diego and LA. Okay. Those are all very walkable. Their downtowns are like very just easy to get around. San Juan Capistrano is a little bit smaller than I would say like Oceanside, but you have like San Clemente, that's also like smaller and just very quaint, beautiful, great views, good food, good vibes.
And it sounds like these are day trips that you can make from LA. So say, for example, you decide to, get your hotel accommodation in LA. These sound like these are day trips that you can make,
Absolutely. So these could be day trips. Say you go to the game and you have a few days in between, like, your next destination that you're flying out. You could even kind of just either road trip down or Amtrak down. That would be a good option. You could, if you're planning on flying into LA, you could kind of go down. And then if you're going on the Amtrak, it'd be easy for you to just go to San Diego, then fly out of San Diego and go somewhere else. There's a lot of options.
Got it. All right. So how about we then move to San Francisco? Because then, SoCal is its own big region there. As you mentioned, there's a lot of different places you can go there. San Francisco, I think for a lot of fans, right? SoFi and LA is like right in I would say in the heart of the city. Levi Stadium is nowhere near San Francisco.
No, it's what, a good hour? It's still pretty far away, but so San Francisco, I love San Francisco. It's such a cool city. That's another, like, it's very walkable there. Easy to get around. It's easy to get around with public transportation there, I would say. I've done it on public transportation maybe like a couple of times. Usually I drive in and, I might drive a little bit from place to place, but once you're in like an area, it's pretty easy to walk around. Mm-hmm. You do have the BART system. It's the Bay Area Transit. Bay Area.
Yeah, Bay Area Transit, yeah.
I know, like, what does it stand for again? That is pretty well connected. So that goes straight from SFO to, San Francisco proper. It goes to a lot of the Bay Area cities. So Levi Stadium is in Santa Clara, which is South Bay. You also have like a bunch of cool cities around there. You have San Jose, it's a huge city, and there's a lot to do. It's a big city. I will say San Francisco is not to be missed. There's everything there, and it's such a cool city. There's just so many cool pockets to the city too. I never get tired of seeing the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's a touristy.
Never seen it. Never seen it. That's definitely one of the places I want to go see. It's just to see how amazing it is.
I never get tired of it. And I have a friend who lives there. She could literally walk out of her house. She just has to walk a little bit, but she has a view within a 5-minute walk of her house. Wow. And she's like, I never get tired of seeing it. I that's my daily walk to get some exercise.
Yeah, so it's important for fans to know that when if you're coming, especially if you're coming from abroad, SFO is more than likely the airport you're landing to, right? For most international fans, that's San Francisco International. But then, what is it? San Jose.
San Jose. I don't know what the airport is called.
San Jose Minerva, I think it's what it's called. I'm losing the thought. That's mostly going to be. Yes, it has some international flights, mainly from Mexico and Canada, but it's mostly going to be domestic. And I know there's also Oakland, which is on what is it, the other side of the bay? So there's 3 major airports there.
Right. I will say this for your fans. If you are going into Oakland and you are not going to have a car, if you're going to go into San Francisco and you are planning on Ubering, getting an Uber is hard because there's a toll and a lot of Ubers will cancel on you if you're going like jumping in between. There's public transit, but just something to keep in mind, because I know my friend, she's like, I had a flight out of Oakland and I was they kept canceling on me. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, you have 3 major airports. And I know Oakland gets a bad rap. It's actually a very cool city.
I know a lot of the soccer aficionados, there's the Oakland Roots there, which is a very famous second division team in the USL. So, you know, if the opportunity exists for you to go watch a game with the Oakland Roots, that'd be pretty good. But yeah, no, have never been there. You know, I've never been, you know, like only traveled through San Francisco maybe twice, but never really explored that area at all. Apart from the Golden Gate Bridge, any other recommendations like directly in the area before maybe we consider Silicon Valley or Napa Valley or some of these other spots?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of all the things because it's such a vast city, but you have a lot of touristy spots, and I'll say like some are a little bit hit or miss, and it kind of just depends on like what you want to do. Like a lot of people go to Fisherman's Wharf, which could be a little bit hit or miss depending on where you're eating at. Like people want like a good clam chowder. I always like to go to the Ferry Building, which isn't in the immediate, it's not in Fisherman's Wharf. It's actually down more towards Pier 39.
Okay.
I always feel like I get dyslexic with numbers. I'm like, am I saying that right?
It's one of those piers. You'll eventually see
one of the piers, yeah. But the Ferry Building is a really cool building. They actually the clam chowder at Hog Island there at the Ferry Building is really good. But there's a bunch of different like vendors and restaurants in there. I don't want to say it's like a market stall, but like there's a bunch of different, it's mostly restaurants and cafes. And there's like this really good gelato place, there's ice cream. There's just like a bunch of different places to eat. And it's a cool vibe. When I go to Hog Island, I usually order, you know, some oysters or clam chowder, you know, just kind of, it's a seafood place. So you got to get seafood there, and you could sit outside, and then you have this view of the Bay Bridge. And that's really nice when it's kind of like a little after sunset, it's starting to get dark and it's just twinkling, and it's a really pretty backdrop there. Little Italy is cool. There's a lot of like really cool old Italian restaurants. You could tell like they're family owned. There's like a cool vibe.
And this will be in San Francisco, correct?
In San Francisco. Yes. Everything in San Francisco. The Chinatown there is the largest Chinatown in North America. Okay. It's a really cool Chinatown. It is like on the regular like tourist route. But it's a cool spot. Really cool to see like these really old buildings. And for anyone who is listening and doesn't know, San Francisco is very hilly. So when we say walkable, just keep that in mind.
You're going to be going up and down these hills. You're going to need to have some good tennis shoes on you.
Yes, you will get tired pretty quickly. So if you're planning on walking around, look at Google Maps, because I know it tells you like the elevation. That's always very telling, because you could be like, okay, it's only, you know, a half-hour walk, but you might be.
I feel like a similar thing happens with New Yorkers when you know, anytime we go to New York, it's like my friends say, it's only, you know, 10 blocks away or like 20 minutes away, but it's like it feels shorter for some odd reason because everything's so condensed. So like you end up doing a lot more walking in New York, but I get it gives me that sensation that, you know, in this case, 4 minutes is not really 4 easy minutes. It's you're climbing up, you're climbing down. Yeah, you're doing a workout almost in that respect. So Napa Valley. So let's get into maybe some more of these like iconic California things, right? That people are thinking about. Napa Valley comes to mind to a lot of folks because it's the wine region. What can fans expect going to this to this region? How should they prepare for it? Is it one of these how do we put it? Just bougie places, or can you do Napa Valley on a budget as well?
You could, and Napa, I would say, is probably the most expensive wine region in California. There's not to say that you can't get a tasting still for around like $25, but that is budget in Napa Valley. It is a little bit bougier. There are still hotels that aren't, too crazy in price. I love Napa Valley. I would say if you want to go there for the wine, reservations are almost a must. And I would say during this time, it's going to be pretty busy.
Mm-hmm.
So try to get those reservations for the wineries that you do want to go to. Now, downtown Napa, like in the actual like city of Napa, that is a very walkable city. And there are small wine tasting rooms. It's just the storefront, and those are pretty easy to walk into. And if you're out and about and you just finished up lunch and you're walking down the street and you're like, I think I want to check out this, you could probably get in those places relatively easy. But when it is crowded, I would say dinner reservations are a must as well. And it's like any other wine region where the wineries start closing at like 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So everything kind of starts dying down, but
más tranquilo la cosa, for Napa Valley.
Yeah, a little bit, but the downtown still, there's plenty of restaurants in the downtown area that stay open at least until 8 or 9.
Right.
Yeah.
So
but if your viewers are looking for a little bit more of I wouldn't say it's budget friendly, but look at the wineries in Sonoma. Sonoma it borders Napa. There are a little bit more options. I would say it's actually the biggest wine producing region in California, Sonoma County. So that's also an option as well. It's right next to it. Like they just butt up against each other and they're just as easy to get to each other, but Napa is just more renowned. Everyone knows Napa.
Claro. So then what would be, for those of us that maybe, might be going with our special someones, we maybe we're trying to get them to, hey, come to a match with me. And I promise you, I'll take you to Napa and wine and dine you. What would be, some good luxury options or, high tier options there in Napa Valley or in Sonoma as well that you would recommend?
Ooh, okay. So for Napa, and this isn't even, I wouldn't even say this is bougie. There's a sparkling wine place that I like going to, Domaine Carneros. I think it's Carneros. Domaine Carneros. It looks like Bridgerton. It looks very like royal and grand, like you're going to like somebody's estate. That's a really cool option. Beautiful setting. They specialize in sparkling wine. Okay. So it feels bougie, you have your sparkling wine. That's a good option. I'm forgetting the name of a couple of the wineries, but there's so many great wineries. There's a really bougie one. Actually, the names are like totally dropping from me, but a cool option is taking the Napa Valley wine train, and that departs from downtown Napa. So it's super easy to get to. Like if you don't want to, drive or hire a driver, which is something that a lot of people do there if they're going to go wine tasting for the day.
Claro, porque entonces.
Yeah, you don't want to mix the two.
Right.
So staying in downtown Napa just has a lot of perks, even though it might be a little bit more expensive at times staying in downtown. It's just easy to walk around. And so you could walk from your hotel to take an Uber to the wine train. You get on this wine train and they have a bunch of different options. So I've done one where it's like this like high tea thing where you go on the train and you drink your tea, you have a whole tea service. There's also like a lunch service that you could do that has like a wine pairing. There's like this other option where you actually get off at a winery, but you're drinking wine along the way.
Oh,
So the
wow.
Napa Valley wine train has a bunch of different options just depending on what you want to do. And it's a really cool experience. You're able
Yeah.
to you're sitting window side and you're seeing all the different wineries. There's someone in your actual cart that's, talking about like the scenery, like what winery is this and the history. Napa Valley has, a history that goes back, and it's a really cool experience. I've done that twice now, and
Mhm.
the wine train is a really cool experience.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I mean, this is why, part of telling people to save money for this tournament is that I think they're just so hyper focused on tickets and that's it. My part, yeah, plane travel, how getting there. And then, of course, you're highlighting, hey, you got to do other stuff too. You're not just gonna sit at your hotel room. You got to go places to eat. You got to go, to these places that, especially for a lot of those that are coming from outside the U.S. I mean, heck, even myself that I've never been to Napa Valley, it's like it's a good opportunity for you to go through these parts of California that you just wouldn't typically might miss, or just is outside of the major cities.
Absolutely. You're coming out here for a game, but like you're coming out here, so you might as well see
Yeah,
it and
enjoy it.
explore it.
Yeah. So then, Jenny, I know that a lot of your content too is focused on nature, a lot of outdoor activities. And I think that you have done, by the way, go check her out on all her socials, at La Wild Explorer, because you'll see that she has gone to almost every single national park in California you've been to.
Yeah.
Like, it's just amazing to see just the diversity of the national parks that California has. So can you walk us through, a little bit of each one, or like some of your favorite national parks there in California, and what really attracts you to do the content that you do specifically to outdoors, but what about these national parks are so unique that if fans don't go to it, it's like they're missing out on something really, really special.
Yeah, so we have 9 national parks, and I would say, oh my god, like, they're all so beautiful and unique. There are a couple that are maybe a little bit easier to get to. Joshua Tree is about a 2-hour drive from LA, so that is really easy to get to. It's a desert. It's very hot during the summer, but it's a desert, so nights are cooler. And the
Mhm.
town of Joshua Tree is actually really cool. And there's a couple of towns along the way. You have 29 Palms. You're not too far from Palm Springs. Palm Springs is about an hour away. So there's just a lot of different options in that area. But Joshua Tree is a really cool national park. I think for anyone who loves desert vibes, it's big for people who love bouldering. So you always see people climbing on the rocks.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's rocks that anyone could kind of just climb and walk on. There's
Mhm.
things that are not too crazy. The hikes, most of the hikes there are shorter hikes, and most of the must stops are very easy to get to. They're just, a walk into you you drive into the parking lot and then you just kind of walk over, and
Okay.
it's a cool park. You could see the highlights all in a day.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that is Joshua Tree, and that's the closest to LA. Um, so you also have Channel Islands National Park, but it's a set of islands, and it the boat to get to the island is not too far from LA. It's in Ventura. You could take, I believe it, yeah, Ventura, which isn't too far from LA, but it's a whole boat ride and a whole thing in itself.
Mhm.
That is a really cool side trip because it's it's just a really cool national park. It's a set of islands, and you could you could decide to just go to one island for the day and hike around, and then the boat gets you, and you have to kind of like look at the schedule and figure out which islands you want to go to or island. But that's a really cool national park. There's also like excursions. I did one from Oxnard, which is a city. How far from LA is it? Maybe an hour and a half or so, depending on where in LA. You could go to Oxnard, and then for like, I think like a half day, you in the morning go to the harbor, they take you on a boat, and then you could go kayaking in the sea caves. And that is...
Oh, I think I remember that content you did. I will admit it's a little scary for me, but makes kayaking out in the sea is hey, props to you.
It is a little scary, but you're in good hands. It was like a very small group, and I felt like, they were all looking out. So it's a really cool experience. Definitely for the more adventurous, like, but really cool experience. Let's see what else. Closer to San Francisco, you have, I guess the closest would be Yosemite National Park, which is like the must-see national park. It's like one of my favorites. I would say it's like top 3.
It's like Americana, right? I mean, like if you've seen top 5 things of like what is American scenery, they probably have seen that Yosemite.
It's just very iconic national park. And especially like if you're looking at like California tourism stuff, like Yosemite for sure has popped up. It's a very beautiful national park, one of the oldest national parks. And I mean, you could do a day in the park. It's tough, but you could do an aggressive 1 day summer, because you have the light lasts so long. You could do a day, but I would recommend doing a couple more. There's so much to do in Yosemite. I think it's about a 4-hour drive from San Francisco, which kind of sounds like a whole trek in itself, but it's so worth the side trip. There's so many things to do in Yosemite. I go there probably around 3 times a year.
Yeah,
and
I feel like you how many hours of content have you taken at Yosemite? Because
so much. I feel like I could do like a whole like series on Yosemite.
But that's how amazing that park is, right? Because like there's so many different angles to this national park that you're just mind blown by the fact that we have this amount of nature in one place.
It's incredible. You'll never run out of things to do. There's still like, I have a to-do list of things that I still want to go back and see. And there's so many different parts of the park. In the summer, the entire park is open. During the winter, we have like some closures because you have higher elevation and snow. But coming in the summer, you've got like the whole entire park, and it's incredible. If you are doing a day, I would say go to the valley, stop in Mariposa Grove or one of the groves. If you're coming from San Francisco, going to Mariposa Grove might be a little bit out of the way, but you have Tuolumne Grove and Merced Grove. So you could also see sequoias there. And then that's another national park. You have Sequoia National Park, which is not too far from Yosemite. They're probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours apart from each other. So that's something that you could tack on. So Sequoia National Park and Kings Canyon are kind of like combined together. Like they're like kind of one giant national park, but depending on who you talk to, they'll say it's one or two. But they're right next to each other. And another beautiful national park. Sequoia is obviously very like known for the giant sequoia trees. You have the largest tree in the world there, largest by volume. And it's really cool to see something like that.
Yeah. Awesome. So apart from all of these national parks, when you're in California, for the most part, you're gonna be traveling by car most often or not because of the different places that you can go to. You mentioned also reservations for a lot of these places. How far in advance should people, you would suggest for people to reserve their vehicles, reserve their, even places like restaurants and hotels? How far in advance are you suggesting folks to do that?
Restaurants and hotels. So restaurants, I would say if there is like a must, 2 weeks, but even like a week to a few days, you should not have a problem. Hotels, I would say at least 2 months, to
Okay.
ensure you are getting a good price
Yeah.
and what you want. At least 2 months. It's summer travel. It's the World Cup. It's gonna, the sooner the better. What else? Restaurants, hotels.
Car
I'll
rentals.
say about the wineries.
Mhm.
2 weeks. If there's certain wineries you want to get into, there's some that have like a waiting list for like a year.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
that's very rare. That's like two of them that are like
Yeah.
very bougie and uh,
Yeah, but even then, right? Like basically, this is just to let folks know, like, hey, don't forget these smaller things too, right? Because then you're going out to these locations. The last thing you want to be dealing with is either a very high price for a hotel room, or that they don't have any, and then you're forced to kind of do, say, go back a couple hours back to the main city, late at night, or just avoiding uncomfortable travel situations, I guess.
Exactly, exactly. And when booking the hotels, look at the reviews. Like, not not every hotel is going to be everyone's cup of tea. There are some spots in LA and in San Francisco that could be a little bit more sketchy to some people. Obviously, like as someone who goes there a lot, I know where those places are and what places to avoid. I would just say look at the reviews. Reviews are very telling.
Mhm.
Don't just go with price right away.
Yeah, yeah, because then they're so focused on that then they forget that, yeah, you actually want to be in a nice neighborhood, or the room not be stinking or anything like that.
It's worth, the extra money to just
Yeah,
have that peace of mind, and everyone's different. It might, some things just don't bother certain people. Some people want a view. So, reviews are everything.
yeah. Now, one other thing, Jan, and that I did ask about, as we've been talking about driving, I think one of the things is California does have some very beautiful scenic drives, right?
Yes.
Okay, so talk about some of those. Is the coastal highway, is that what it's is called?
Pacific Coast Highway, yes.
Uh-huh.
Highway 1 is stunning. So you could take that from LA and then go up and then cut into I would say cut into the 101 to go along to Santa Barbara. I'm trying to think because I feel like can you take the entire way? You kind of cut in and out. It kind of depends on like the stops that you want to do,
Mhm.
but you could start from LA and then start going up, say Santa Barbara, and then you're going into kind of the central coast. You have Morro Bay, Pismo Beach. Pismo Beach is very well known. Morro Bay is really cool because there's like this huge rock, and I believe is it a petrified volcano? It's huge. It's just
Okay.
really cool to look at. It's always like very foggy and has like this like, very mysterious look to it. That's a cool drive. And then you continue up and there's Cambria, and then you have Hertz Castle and San Simeon. And then if you cut inland, you have a wine country called Paso Robles. It's a really, really cool place. And that wine country is very budget friendly, I would say. Has a very like relaxed vibe. It's almost like it's little like coastal cowboyish.
Okay.
Which I feel like I'm like talking like Pinterest aesthetics now, but it's a cool.
But you know what? People need to feel. That's the thing, right? We're doing a lot of research for y'all right now. You know, we're giving you these different vibes and aesthetics and how they look. And if that fits, great. You know that then you know where you need to drive to. But if that's not your vibe, then you know we're cutting out all the research that you need to do here. So
Right.
no, but I really do think. And again, folks, follow her on her socials at La Wild Explorer. I really do think that your content just really highlights all these different parts of California that I really do think whoever is following you can find a little piece of, you know what, I might be interested in that. You know, maybe not for me personally, kayaking in the ocean, probably not for me, but you do go to a lot of cool, quirky places, I would say. You know, I call them quirky just because they're like very unique little museums, you know, unique restaurants. I really do like that. And so, you know, again, I really do think your content is fantastic for that. And folks, if your plans, I know that right now we don't really know who's playing in California except for the U.S. The U.S. is playing twice in L.A. If you're gonna be in California for your travels, please follow the Wild Explorer for all your other soccer stuff. You have your soccer game, and then all the extra days. That's where you pack all your tourism. Janine, any other final tips that you want to give folks regarding California travel before we end today?
Yeah, just to go off of scenic drives, so sometimes there's road closure. So there's a very famous spot called Big Sur, and so San Simeon would be like kind of the last stop. There's a couple other towns, but there's a closure, and there's been one for like the past year and a half. There's just always like every time we get a lot of rain, there's a landslide and something happens. But if you're looking at drives, look at CalTrans. So that is our transportation. CalTrans, we have a website. You could just plug in where you want to go. You could look at a map. You could plug in, I want to look at road closures. I want to look at traffic. I want to look at anything temporary. And you could see the road closures there. I'm hoping that gets opened up before the World Cup. I mean, I've been hoping for it for selfishly forever, but
Right.
that is one of the most beautiful drives, but that will definitely save some headache because that detour is not easy.
Okay. And of course, we have the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup in LA as well, Rose Bowl. So it's a separate tournament. I believe they're gonna have 4 or 5 games. I forget how many exactly. It might be more sits. But if you're gonna be here for 2025, get a head start. Scout out some of these places that Janine has provided here for you. See if you like them or not. And then hey, that gets you ready for 26 as well, because then now you know what to expect. Janine, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, your socials. You have anything else to plug apart from your socials?
I have a blog. My blog is lawildexplorer.com. You could catch me there. There's a lot more like detailed guides, and you know, my DMs are open. If you know, you come across something, you have some questions, shoot them over. Yeah, I'm so excited for everyone who's traveling to California and traveling for the World Cup. Like, congratulations. That is amazing. Like, bucket list goals.
Yeah.
So
Well, no, well,
congrats.
thank you. You know, like I said, you know, you've been the for when we make California a really serious travel place, we're gonna be referring to all your content because again, you've been fantastic in all those aspects, and so really would love to check out all the recommendations that you have for us. Again, folks, Janine Romo, Le Wild Explorer, check her content out on all her socials and her blog. And again, thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts on California travel.
Thank you, Danny.